Welcome to Tubbyland, home of the world-famous Teletubbies. While it's unfortunate we had to close down our previous entertainment center due to some unforeseen complications 8 years ago, we're excited to announce the grand opening of Tubbyland Play Place Entertainment. So keep an eye out for those beloved Teletubbies.
Hey there, and welcome to Tubbyland, Time for Teletubbies by Giga Games Entertainment, an unofficial remake of the game Five Nights at Tubbyland, released around 3 years ago, with the original game releasing in 2015, one of the oldest fan games by far. You are Parker Anderson, hired as the night guard of the abandoned location for $248 a week while it's preparing for its grand opening. But don't expect your night shift to fly by so easily. On your first night, you learn the layout of the place and how to use the doors to keep yourself safe. I know they're in the middle of preparing for a grand opening, but these Teletubbies have seen far better days. As for Poe and Lala, Poe can be found on camera 3 and will stay stationary as long as the music box is playing. Lala can be found on the stage at camera 6, and despite the phone guy's claims, will make their way towards your office at camera 1. You must shut the office door as soon as they arrived, and open it as soon as they leave the camera. On your second night, your reports regarding Lala's behavior have gone largely ignored by the rest of the staff. Even though the staff now think you're crazy, you learn that Tinky Winky will occasionally start malfunctioning and leave camera 3. If they do, check each camera until you hear some form of static, and hold the break connection button until they return to camera 3. On night 3, Phone Guy apologizes for calling you crazy, since you were telling the truth after all. Now Dipsy is active, who approaches your office via the dining room on camera 2. In order to get rid of Dipsy, you must activate the heater in camera 2 once they've arrived, but due to the lack of visibility in the dining room, you must use sound to determine when is the best time to turn the heater on. The louder Dipsy sounds on camera 2, the more efficient the heater will be. Leaving the heater on too long, however, will cause the fire alarm to go off and temporarily disable the heater until the temperature cools down completely. In general, the Tubbybots have been getting more erratic in behavior, and staff are unsure as to why, though they're doing their best to investigate. On night 4, the phone guy explains they've had trouble locating the 5th animatronic, Nunu the Vacuum, who was supposedly scrapped due to an incident that occurred 8 years ago, and should be in storage. Also, they've seen what looks like the silhouette of a black Tubbybot in the establishment. Obviously just a trick of the darkness, right? Night 5 has the phone guy in shock as he explains that Nunu has been found and is trapped in the restrooms, and must not be allowed to escape after it killed one of the employees. If it leaves the room, you must find it and use the break connection button to send it back. It's honestly a shock that the establishment has been shut down yet, but the phone guy doesn't plan on sticking around for that to happen, as he quits in the middle of the phone call and leaves, and advises us to do the same. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have come back after the first night. Have you seen these things? How are these Tubbybots even remotely presentable to the public? After you complete your final shift, you're rewarded with a check for $248 on the 13th of November, 2006. Now before we move on to the custom night, there's a hidden night that you can access whenever you're killed by one of the Tubbybots. Clicking on this specific spot on the desk screen leads to a brand new night, called Night 93. You shouldn't have returned another night here. He cut the building's power, and now he is looking for you. He will try to enter your office, track it with your cameras, and scare it with your flashlight once he is nearby. In order to survive, charge up the power entirely before 6 AM, or else you will die. Night 93 has no visibility throughout the cameras, and you must rely on the sounds picked up by the cameras to determine where the Tubbybot is located. While keeping track of it, charge the power through the camera system. Your flashlight has limited battery, so only use it when you're sure that the Tubbybot is in your room. Once you've charged the power...
Do you really think you can do anything about this? You're so dumb. You don't know anything. You have no idea of what's going on. Nobody can stop me. Nobody can stop them. They do everything I want, and they don't have a choice. Nobody will stop me from finding him. Nobody.
This entity is known as PTLD-93, its name acting as a sort of acronym for the names of the 4 Tubbybots. Now, despite PTLD's name being a literal acronym for the 4 core Tubbybots, they clearly distinguish themselves apart from the core 4 and Nunu, using them as tools in search of someone in what appears to be a revenge plot. This leads me to believe that these Tubbybots are all possessed by spirits, with this one spirit materializing as this black Tubbybot, which matches the phone guy's sightings. However, PTLD's origins are shrouded in mystery. When did they first appear? How are they able to control the Tubbybots? And why are they using the Tubbybots to try and kill us? Also, it's worth mentioning that it's unclear who we're playing as on Night 93. Despite the lack of information on PTLD, there is one interesting connection between them and the incident that shut down the original location 8 years ago. But for that, we need to visit Custom Night, specifically the maximum difficulty, Tubby Hell. In Custom Night, a new character, Decimated, is introduced, which randomly becomes active while you're on camera and will appear in a random location around you. You must find it and click on it quickly before it disables your cameras for the rest of the night, guaranteeing failure. If you reach the end of the night on Tubby Hell, a device appears, with Poe taking control of it and deploying it, blowing the place to hell, revealing PTLD's face.
Are you still there? We have been here for years.
This ending, according to a commenter and some of the Tubbyland game's wikis, references the events that led to the location shutting down and being in such disrepair. PTLD uses Poe to set off this explosion that would put the place out of commission for a few years, before the place was set to reopen. This is the incident from 8 years ago. Now, while that may cover everything in Tubbyland Time for Teletubbies, clearly a lot of mystery remains regarding the nature of the Tubbybots, Nunu's involvement in the incident 8 years ago which shut down the place, and PTLD-93. Given that this is a remake of the original game, it's possible that the story would make more sense knowing the context of the original game, but I'm going to try and come up with the most likely context / premise for what's going on here. So PTLD used Poe to blow up Tubbyland 8 years ago, possibly in an attempt to kill the person they're looking for right now. This could be related to a separate incident involving Nunu, which also occurred 8 years ago. Quite the coincidence indeed. However, there's no mention throughout the game of any fatalities besides the one at Nunu's hand, or hose, on Night 5, which initially had me hesitate with the idea of spirits possessing the Tubbybots, but with all the dialogue we've seen from PTLD and possibly Poe, along with voice lines that the Tubbybots have throughout the game, I'm convinced that they have to be possessed by spirits. Though, if that's the case, you'd have to wonder how at least 7 individuals come to haunt the place with no reports of missing individuals or even accidental deaths. This doesn't even count the character Decimated, who seems to be an Easter egg reference to the original Five Nights at Teletubbies 2 game. Because of the fact that this game is a remake of the first game in the trilogy, it makes sense that some of these key questions were never answered here, which can be a little disappointing from a general point of view, but at the same time on its own, it leaves an intriguing mystery and room for theories when it comes to the nature of the Tubbybots, as well as PTLD's motivations. Not only do we have to think about the nature of the Tubbybots, but we also have to think about the individual that PTLD is chasing. Because the interesting idea here is that PTLD is using the Tubbybots to locate them, which suggests a potential idea that whoever killed the spirit that would go on to become PTLD did not kill the Tubbybots, because you'd think, let's say this one individual killed all 7 of them. You would think that they would all be in concert trying to locate this individual, but instead PTLD just decides to use them instead. So either these spirits, for the most part, did not want to go after them, except for PTLD being the vengeful spirit they are, or the other Tubbybot spirits were killed by someone else. Of course, as I said, this is all assuming that they are actually spirits, but I'll leave that part of the theorizing to you. With all that said, I hope you did enjoy. This is a much shorter one. In fact, this is probably the shortest story breakdown I've done, but that's mainly because we covered everything rather quickly. There's only phone calls, PTLD's dialogue, and the ending for Custom Night. Considering that the story of Five Nights at Teletubbies spanned over a full trilogy, I think it makes a little bit of sense why this video covering only one remake would end up being so short. With that said, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, Helps me know what you enjoyed about the content and what you want to see from me. Great job to Giga Games Entertainment. The link to the game will be in the description below as always, along with a link to the playlist of all my other story breakdowns if you're interested in seeing the stories of other fan games I've covered. And with that said, I'll see you in another video. Take care.